In the Nairobi sequence, Lois and Jimmy are constrained with bags over their head. Jimmy and Lois are further restrained when it is found the CIA is monitoring them. When the cops finally answer the call, they come across women confined behind bars below. Above, they also see the sex trafficker Santos chained to a radiator. We note the bar motif in either case as potentially a general symbol of restraint. We see Santos is later further imprisoned behind bars. Here, we have an example of one cop withholding information relative to the other that gives Clark a clue to that which he seeks. One, therefore, can be said to represent the pillar of restraint, and the other the pillar of mercy. In the nightmare sequence, Batman is being held down and taken below. We see he is restrained via chains. When Lex reveals his plan to Superman, we see that he has control over Superman. We see that this control is psychological and not physical, perhaps indicated by the fact that Lex need not actually touch Superman. We see the motif of bars around Superman as perhaps further indication of his restraint. When Batman and Superman fight, naturally there are many instances of constraint, i.e., one trying to control the other.
Stay down! If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
However, when Batman ultimately has Superman fully restrained, we see Superman collapses on a pile of radiators. So again, we see this visual motif of bars and or radiators, or more generally, lines that can be thought of as a state of imprisonment or bondage. This idea is further emphasized when Batman literally ties Superman up, binds him up further with the wire from his grappling hook, pulls him, and tosses him around in a loop. We note that this tossing or being caught in a loop is a major way this idea of restraint is shown, as also exemplified when Zod tosses Superman after swinging him in a loop. Here we see Wonder Woman, the feminine, restraining the unrestrained phallus or masculine as expressed through Doomsday. We note the natural occurrence here of the loop motif associated with restraint. Again, we see the feminine in Justice League restraining that which reflects the unrestrained masculine, the will to power and dominance. We see the lasso again used to restrain Steppenwolf, as well as Superman.
Arthur, we need to restrain him.
Superman here is, of course, operating on animalistic impulses, the same auto-defense mechanism that causes Cyborg to attack first. The lasso is used to restrain the terrorist, which prevents him from lashing out and uses his speech rather than force. He is restrained toward truth. In BVS, we see the feminine again restrain the masculine when Finch holds down Lex's hand, preventing him from growth toward increasing speed and volume. Lex himself is, of course, restrained when his involvement is revealed. We see the chain motif as well as the bars. One really good example of restraint in Justice League is Barry Allen speaking with his father. Clearly his father is imprisoned, but perhaps more subtly is the fact that Barry himself, despite not literally being imprisoned, is himself held back psychologically. His father speaks about him being held back and running in circles. So again, we have the circle motif associated with restraint. We then see Barry's lair surrounded by many of the motifs we've seen associated with restraint, such as bars, fences, locks, etc. Another subtle example is Victor Stone, who wears the GCU jacket. We see the chain motif of restraint in the fact that the letters are chained together. Perhaps we could say something to the effect of, Victor and Barry, and in general all heroes, are at first tethered to their mundane way of life and their mundane identities, and to become the hero they can be, they'll first have to break those chains, accepting their higher path. Lastly, we look at Zod versus Superman. The fight between them ends with essentially Superman restraining Zod. Zod here represents the unrestrained masculine, this blind and animalistic rage, the bull that Superman has to conquer. Superman continues to hold him back as Zod continues to push forward with the phallus of destructive fire. Here we have the lingam yoni motif again, where the pillar of light is bound by the feminine yoni. Superman's arms are around Zod, restraining him, binding him like the lasso around Doomsday, the foundation, the feminine energy of restraint of the overexpressed masculine pillar. The restraint taken to the full extreme is ultimately binding one fully to death. Next time, we will focus on the theme of freedom to examine this dynamic interplay occurring within and without the self as it pertains to these masculine and feminine energies.